I'm Constable Pat Sadak with the Winnipeg Police Services Public Information Office. I'm joined here today with Staff Sergeant Shaun Venn from the Community Relations Division. We have one matter to speak to you today about, but before we do, I would like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Ininu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'd now like to call upon Staff Sergeant Venn to say a few words. Shaun?
Good afternoon, everybody. As Pat introduced me, my name is Shaun Venn. I'm a staff sergeant here with the Winnipeg Police Service. I oversee our Community Relations Division, so that includes our school engagement section. So all school resource officers and school education officers for the city fall under my command. So just before we get started here, I have some prepared remarks that I'm going to deliver. Should only take a couple minutes, and then I'll open the floor to some questions, as I'm sure many of you have. So I am here to address a deeply concerning trend that's been affecting our schools and our community over the last several weeks. Since February 3rd, the Winnipeg Police Service has responded to 11 separate reports of threats made against our schools throughout our city. While our investigations to date have determined that none of these specific threats were credible, the impact that they've had on our city, on our students, on our teachers, on our families, is very real, and the consequences for those responsible even more so. When police receive reports of a threat at a school, whether that's called in, that's posted or online or discovered, we don't have the luxury of assuming that it's a prank. We treat every single one of these as a real and immediate danger until we can prove otherwise. Now, every single one of these investigations consumes an enormous amount of police resources, whether that's on the front end during the initial emergency response or on the back end throughout and during the investigation. Now, depending on the nature and scope of the information or the threat that we receive, a police response can mean, and I'm going to say that again, it can mean deploying massive amounts of resources. What does that look like? Multiple patrol units, tactical support team, K-9 officers, drones, helicopters. Now, we don't respond the same way every single time. It really depends on the information and the nature of the threat. But if we're responding to pranks, that means that critical emergency resources are being diverted away from life-saving emergencies in other parts of the city. I can't stress this, and I can't say this more emphatically. Every single one of these hoax calls, these pranks, puts our entire city at risk. I also think it's important to highlight and point out that it's not just police and emergency resources that are being disrupted. There's significant disruptions to our school and our entire school network. We've seen schools forced into lockdowns. We've seen schools forced into activating other safety measures and protocols. When our children are in school, they shouldn't have to worry about their safety. Teachers shouldn't have to be forced to manage these high-stress situations and events instead of teaching. To those who think this is a joke, or that think this is an easy way to get off of school or get out of school or have class canceled, it's not a joke. It's not funny. These are very serious criminal offenses, very serious. And I don't think the police need to explain the implications and consequences of a criminal record that can follow you around for the rest of your life. It can prevent you from seeking employment. You can get fired from your job. It can prevent you from traveling. Now, our major crimes unit is leading these investigations. In a very short period of time, our investigators are making significant progress. To date, they've arrested and criminally charged 2 youths and 1 adult female from Toronto. My message to our community, to Winnipeggers, to our parents, if you haven't already, please sit down with your children tonight, explain the gravity of these actions. There are real life consequences for those who choose to participate or engage in this type of behavior. To our students, silence is a choice. Step up. Be the leader who stops this. Don't allow your friends or people that you care about to be victimized. If you see something, if you hear something, whether that's during school, after school, on social media, in a group chat, report it to a trusted adult. Do not share it. Do not escalate the fear. If you remember nothing else, that send button can change your life. Do not share it. In closing, the Winnipeg Police Service is committed to ensuring schools remain a safe place for learning. We continue to take every threat seriously, and we will hold those who disrupt and cause harm to our community accountable. So that's the end of my prepared remarks. I'll open the floor up to questions.
So you have made 3 arrests, as you mentioned. Are all of these arrests related to prank calls?
Yes.
So every arrest you made, the uttering threats, cause of bodily harm, these charges, these are people who are calling in fake threats about schools?
Yeah, well, like I had mentioned earlier, it's a good question. Like I had mentioned earlier, to date, the investigations have determined that none of these threats are credible.
So none of the, and there's obviously investigations ongoing for several of them, as the press release says. So all 11 not credible, according to the Winnipeg Police so far, from what you found.
That we've determined so far.
In terms of those 6 investigations ongoing, any indication it could be one individual responsible for multiple, more than one? Do you know any information on that yet?
So I got to be really careful on how much information that I disclose. So I appreciate the question. There are, as you had said, these investigations are ongoing. They're fluid. We're working at trying to identify the suspects. We've made 3 arrests so far. That's really, I can't provide too much more information about that.
And then some information on the 30-year-old female from Toronto. You said they were all prank calls. Was this individual in Winnipeg when they made a call? Were they in Toronto? It just seems odd for something like this to be an individual from outside the city.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Do you think that, given what happened recently, the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge, this might be top of mind? Could that explain this influx of these strange prank calls?
Certainly, that's a theory. I think this goes without saying that these events can be very real, and people can get hurt. They have gotten hurt. I would encourage everybody to go online, spend 5 minutes. Everyone here, everyone listening, go online, spend 5 minutes online doing some research. A common slang term is swatting, right? We've heard about these. They've happened all over the world. These events have happened here, right in our country. You mentioned Tumbler Ridge, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers will go out to the people impacted and affected. But there's a real life impact here, whether it's a prank or not, right? But even in instances where these are pranks, right? People have lost their lives. Innocent people have lost their lives. So whether that's during the initial police response or after for medical or psychological issues, the last thing that anybody wants is to hear that there's an active threat at your child's school or at a school here in the city. The psychological impacts alone, if a large police contingency is showing up at a school, that can be very, very traumatic. When the police show up, especially a massive amounts of resources, that can be very real. That can be very traumatic. So the impact of these events, especially these pranks, can be very lasting. Nobody wants that. Again, I don't want to get into the specifics of each investigation. They're open, they're ongoing, and we have to protect the integrity of the investigation.
In terms of the schools, is there a reason why you're not sharing the names of the schools? Names?
I think it's up to the schools which locations. I mean, the press release went out. I mean, you guys have the locations and the corresponding individuals who have been charged. So we're going to leave it to the schools, our partners at the schools and the impacted schools and school divisions to answer those questions, those specific questions.
Are you concerned about copycat behavior?
Certainly, absolutely, we are.
The 10-year-olds, that's a fairly young age. Can you speak a little bit to that being a rarity? And
You know, I've only been the staff sergeant for Community Relations Division for a year now, so I'm just coming up on my first year. You know, in my opinion, I think this is exactly why we have school resources. We've partnered with the schools and the school divisions, 4 of them throughout the city. It's important to engage youth and be a part of that education early, so that we can help young people make good decisions and prevent them from going into the criminal justice system. So is it a rarity? I don't know how rare it is, but it's certainly concerning. That 10-year-old's been diverted to the Turnabout program. So it's a program through Manitoba Justice, the province, and they connect that child to programming and resources.
And I was going to ask about the copycat aspect. That 11 in just a little more than 2 weeks. Are these kind of the situations where you're more likely to get a copycat because they kind of see the rise it gets out of whether it be schools, whether it be media?
Well, I hope not. I really do. I spoke to the impacts it'll have on school and children and our teachers and the disruption to emergency resources. You know, that's why we're here today. That's why we're discussing this, getting the information out. You know, I'm hoping that parents speak to their children and so that they understand this. And I hope that I hope we can get the message out and that it doesn't inspire more.
during a typical month, what might that number look like? Is there an average that police have in regards to threats such as these?
In terms of?
Threats involving schools? Is it something that usually doesn't happen at all, or?
Well, I can just speak from personal experience. I don't have those precise or those exact numbers. I can speak from personal experience. I mean, I haven't seen such a large amount in a short period of time. I'm not aware of it. You know, certainly we're familiar with these investigations. They've happened in the past, and we've investigated them. But I personally have never experienced any in such a short period of time.
Speaking earlier about the school resource officer program, so I know some school divisions have scaled back on that. Is this something that's going forward that you're interested in? Think that conversation should be restarted about expanding that program?
Are you asking the police services position, or are you asking my personal opinion?
Your personal opinion.
Well, I'd love to see it. You know, like, don't take my word for it. I think I'm extremely proud of the work that our men and women assigned to our school resource department, our unit has done. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go into the schools and speak to the schools that have school resource officers, speak to the teachers, speak to the parents. I think that our officers, there's 11 in total, so it's 11 school resource officers, 5 school education officers. They do tremendous work. They work with these kids. I think they forge very strong relationship with not just with the students, but the parents, the teachers. So I would implore everyone, go talk to the schools where the school resources officers are. I think you're going to find overwhelming consensus that they like having them there and they're an important part of the school environment.
Have they been a part of
2 more
these
questions.
investigations?
Pardon me?
Have they been part of these investigations?
Yeah.
I'm
glad you asked that. So the school resources, school education section has taken a two-prong approach. So number one, we're providing investigative support. So we're assisting essentially, and what does that mean? Essentially, that means that we're assisting in the collection of evidence. So earlier when I talked about that these investigations consume significant amounts of police resources, you know, you got to think about it. There's videos, in every school, right? There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students and staff that need to be interviewed. So some of the activities that these school education officers, my officers, are performing, assisting major crimes, is we're canvassing for video, we're reviewing, we're interviewing witnesses, school staff, parents. The other thing that we're doing, that we're actively involved in right now, even as we're speaking here, is safety planning. So we are working with school administrators, providing information, helping them conduct risk assessments to determine threat credibility. So we want our schools to make informed decisions so that they can determine what action to take. We don't tell schools or direct schools what to do. We don't have the authority to do that. We're not going to do that.
Last question.
What is the message to students and parents who might be feeling anxious about going to school and sending their kids to school?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What is the message to students and parents who might be feeling anxious about going to school or sending their kids to school?
Well, I think that parents, I think that the entire community, so everyone here in Winnipeg, I want to reassure them that we're on this. We've partnered with our major crimes unit, so this isn't something we're taking lightly. We are actively involved. We are investigating this. We don't have, unfortunately, the Winnipeg Police Service doesn't have infinite amount of resources. We have a very finite amount of resources. So we are using whatever resources we can. We're diverting from Division 51 from the community relations perspective. We're shifting resources to making sure that increased our presence in schools. So we're on it, we're working at it, and we are making progress. So
I think we should also add that people shouldn't be afraid that they should come to school just like normal. We're on it. We take these things very seriously. We will investigate these incidents, but don't be afraid to go to school. People shouldn't panic, but just be aware of your surroundings and be cognizant. And if they see anything, report it. We're there for you. Thank you very much.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.